Hello everyone, welcome back to my Joseki series. I know it's been a long time. Hope everybody's doing well during this time of quarantine. And yeah, it's been so long that I almost abandoned this series, but no, I'm still gonna be working on the series. So today we will pick up where we left off from last time. So um, today we're gonna still be working on the 3-4 Joseki with the high approach. In the previous lectures, I've talked about the most common and my suggested variations for you to attach at C15, right? So I believe the very first lecture we talked about why not just play like this as black? You get a nice 15-point corner. We also talked about how to defend against white's push and honey. And I said, in conclusion, what you can do is to descend at D18. So I recommend this move to players of all levels, especially beginner or single digit Q players. This is a very easy to understand move that you should play, and it's AI recommended. What you do is to crawl 4 times exactly, and then you Tanuki, and you go ahead and start playing somewhere else because your corner is going to be totally fine. If white adds a move, you can Tanuki again. White adds another move, no problem. We can Tanuki once again. There's no life and death issues here, right? When you play this kind of moves, even if you can get this, black is still able to make a life, right? Even if black just plays this one, black is totally alive. So very, very solid corner. I really like black in this position. I think most players would appreciate the simplicity of this as well. Today we'll talk about some other possibilities for black. So back in the days, I believe the high pincer at D12 it was very, very popular. But today, you can pretty much erase this variation from your mind because this is just not a great move, right? It's not really protecting what's going on. Like, it's not really protecting the corner. Uh, Back in the days, White has this very, very popular move. But this is no longer valid in the time of AI. This has been eliminated pretty much. So I think I'll spend another lecture talking about why this has been eliminated. But that's not today's topic. We're going to be mostly working on sometimes as black, you can also choose to play C13. Um, well, you might have a question already. Well, if C15 is so good, why don't you just play C15, right? So, well, let's look at the example immediately. Let's get the motivation for it, right? Like, so at this particular point, if let's say this is the game, white approaches from here. In normal circumstances, black would just wanna, play out this one. However, because white already has a wall here, how comfortable are you guys really, about this moyo? Like, how are you gonna invade this moyo, right? So talking about invasion, there's also my invader series. You guys can check things out. You guys might come up with brilliant ideas as to how to invade this moyo. But if that's not something, that's not something that you like, if you still don't feel super comfortable with invasions, you might want to choose some alternatives, right? Instead of attaching here, you might want to change your strategy and play something else. So, which is why we need to kind of know more variations than just attach at C15. So we'll be covering the low one space pincer. So against this, we'll mainly focus on white's attach at C17 today. I'm going to cover, and we will cover some other variations later on. So against this C17, I recommend you guys one variation. So there's a lot of variations, really. Back in the days, there are things like G17. These are no longer they no longer exist these days with AI. So I recommend you guys not necessarily optimal move, but I think something that is very easy to manage and very simple to understand for beginners is for you to honey. White is pretty much forced to cut, and black will pull the stone back at c15. Here, white's follow-up is going to be the wedge at c14. That creates the maximum problem. So let's say white just extend, then that's not going to be good at all, because now this c17 stone just died for no reasons. So that would be a very bad idea for white. So white's best move is to wedge. And against this wedge, black has two choices. So now the board looks complicated because all the stones are cutting each other off. But it's actually a very, very simple variation, right? So first, black has the B14 variation. At this point, white pretty much has to connect, right? White can exchange this, there's no problem, but now white has to come back and connect. So it's pretty much the same thing. So let's look at the first order. Is for white to connect here. Here, black has a lot of problems. All right, there's a cutting point here, there's a cutting point here, there's a cutting point at B13. But now black has a Tsuji to fix every cutting point at once. And the Tsuji is for you to actually make a very ugly shape at B16. Against this move, white pretty much has to give up the C17 stone, right? If you keep blocking, black will actually extend out. Even if you get this Atari, not sure what it does, because both black groups are very safe, and then white just died inside. For the same reason, this is not going to work either, because black will extend out. So white's correct move is play e17, forcing black to descend. And then white's follow-up move is to play f16, against which this is a sente, so black pretty much has to go back, right? If you play something else, white will block here, and then black's gonna die. So black's correct move is to play c18. So this result, I think AI slightly prefer white. I think mostly because black's position is quite low, and white has a sente on hand, and it's a very good shape. White can consider pushing once here and then start working on somewhere else on the board. But I have my personal opinion. I think this is actually fine, especially for my viewers. I think this corner is very solid. There's never going to be problems here anymore. So I think for beginners and single-digit kill players, certainty is very, very important. We don't have any Aji, and then we have quite a bit of points in the corner. But in the meantime, we also have things we can hope for, right? We can hope for this jump later on. We can hope for playing this D13 move, and we have ourselves a little bit of influence towards the outside. So this is very easy to manage for black. I personally play this variant sometimes, and I think territory and certainty is definitely a big plus in our games. So this is the first variation that I recommend to my users. But I also want to later on talk about the context in which you want to use that move. But very quickly, we have to kind of go through the second variation. That is for black to actually Atari at D14. Against this move, white has no choice but to descend. And now it looks like black's in trouble, right? Because we cannot really ladder from any direction because this is an Atari. And for similar reason, this direction is also not going to work. Um, Looks like this is game over, but actually Black has ways to deal with this. There's to Atari first at B17. White has to descend, and then Black's next move is to actually block White. So at this point, White's best move is actually to give up the two stones and actually capture this move, because if you just Atari, there is gonna be if you try to drag these two guys out, well, there's gonna be a lot of problems. First of all, if the ladder works, Black can connect, and then there's this move, and then this move in a Miai situation, right? So that's if the ladder works. Even if the ladder doesn't really work, there are things that Black can play, I think. So pretty much Black can extend out at E17. I already see that as a good solution. So if White Ataris, yeah, so this fight's not going to work out for White, right? So White needs to fix this immediately. Then there's this, and then these two guys are in trouble. So this is a bit hard for White to continue. So dragging the stone out is not necessarily a good move. The best move is for White to immediately fix a very deadly D17 stone. So therefore that means that this Atari is not necessary because these guys are gonna die anyway. So why sacrifice one more? White's correct move is to capture. Black will capture, and now White Atari's on top. So this is a tough choice for Black. If Black connects, which he probably should, then later on there is basically these two stones are not captured, which means eventually there might be some. Well, first of all, there's an extra co-threat that White can play. That is to play this one, right? There's an extra co-threat, but also at some point, if White gets both of these moves, these two guys are actually going to make an impact. Black will eventually have to probably take the two stones out of board. So despite all that, Black's correct move is actually to connect. If Black plays this one, it gives White an extra stone towards the outside, and that's just not an ideal variation. So Black's correct move, remember, is to actually connect here and not to take the two stones. And now what White can do is to Tanuki, right? White should absolutely Tanuki here. And later on, Black can decide whether he wants to play out this one or he just wanted to play this one for points, right? That's his decision to make. But in this variation, I think it's also slightly better for White because White gets the sente and also has some sort of influence towards the right. So this is also an interesting outcome that's playable for both sides. That's why it's a Joseki. So to quickly recap, today we talked about what happens when White attached to the 3-3. We said, why not just use this simple variation, right? We have a Tsuji that fixes all problems, and White is forced to sacrifice the corner. And then at this point, this is an equal game, typical territory versus influence type of game. So I recommend this to you as Black, definitely. And the other one is for you to Atari on top. This is kind of more strange variation where everyone gets pretty much just one side, and white ends the variation with this type of shape. So, black gets to work on this side, white gets to work on this side, and white gets a sente. So that's really not a bad outcome for white at all. So very playable for both sides. An old Joseki, slightly outdated, but I think still usable. AI certainly does not think it's optimal, but I think for viewers, it's definitely good enough. So just before I end here, I will talk about a little bit of the context as to where you use that, right? So we just mentioned that, if you play like this, well, how comfortable are you about invading this thing, right? So I can literally make another invader video about this, but I mean, this is different than every single one of the invader videos I have, and probably involves some other tactics. But I mean, if you're not comfortable with that, you can strategically avoid that by playing the pincer. So if white goes for this one, especially, right? Then we can hane and then pull the stone, right? So that's where our knowledge start to become very important because at this point, if we just play out the Joseki we just learned, that's very good for us because now we have. Well, let's play another move. And now we have our stone facing white's development area. This would be awesome for black because now I'm not sure what this wall is doing. And then also in the meantime, there's also a leak over here. So uh, this kind of way of choosing Joseki actually defeats White's objective of building a giant moyo. So that's when you would have a very nice outcome with this type of Joseki. So the choice really depends on what's on the board. Um, so yeah, that's an excellent case for you to actually play out this kind of Joseki. Maybe at this point, as white, I would just play a Kosumi here because if play 3/3 black has that variation, that's very really annoying. So my choice would be actually play a Kosumi here, and that's probably something we're also going to cover in the next videos. But for now, but I mean online, there's a lot of players who would actually not even think about it, and then they just go for this kind of variation, and I think. And I'm just very happy with it, right? Because I just destroyed everything here with my very nice strong stone here. And look, white does not have much territory, and it's very, very behind in terms of territory. So give it a try in your game. If that's actually very easy to understand. If there's a tremendous wall, right, and then your opponent is approaching towards here, then you can think about this one space pincer with the goal of making this area really, really strong so that this part cannot be developed. So actually very, very simple idea for, it's actually a very simple idea in terms of how you think about the game of Go globally. All right, so this is it for now, and thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.